So I'm going to be showing you how to make a calf raising board. You're just going to need a skill saw, an impact wrench, some 8x3 all-purpose screws. Right here we're going to start out with 9 inches on, there's going to be 4 9-inch boards. So this will be the base of your calf raiser board. And we're just measuring them out. We're going to use a tri-square later to make the line straight for us to cut. So you just measure out 4 9-inch boards. And for the actual part where you stand on for the calf raising, we're going to make that 20 inches. And I have a pretty small frame, so if you want to make that longer, that's totally fine. You just kind of stand on it and see how big it is for you, but I am quite small, so 20 inches was fine for me. But my stepson stood on it, and it was a little bit small for him. So 20 inches is good for a very small person, but you can go up to however much you really need. And for the actual middle part of the base, I just did 3.5 because that's how wide the board is. It's a 2x4, but it's actually 3.5 inches. So I just made 2 3.5 pieces for the middle of the base. Just mark all those out. And again, I just used the tri-square to make the line straight. And you can use anything that is a straight line. You don't have to use a tri-square. I mean, you can use like a magazine. Anything with just a straight edge that's fairly stiff. A regular ruler. Anything will really work, but I just had this on hand, so that's why I used it for this video. Just to show. And sorry for my arm being in the way, that was kind of annoying. I didn't realize until after I'd taken the video. But those are little tiny 3.5 inch pieces. And me just showing the tri-square. And here I'm using the skill saw. And even if you wear glasses, it still gets up in your face, so just be careful while using that. Cutting out the 9-inch pieces. I used a big Home Depot bucket full of water to hold it down because I don't really have any kind of workspace. So I'm just on the edge of my porch. And you just want to line it up and try to get it as straight as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it is just a home project. So I'm going to try to keep it fairly straight. Again, just holding it out on the end and cutting it with the skill saw. So that will be the actual part where you step on, the 20-inch piece, and I have my 4 9-inch pieces. And then I messed up on the 3.5 inch, so I had to re-measure them. And that'll show in a second. There's my 4th piece for the 9-inch. So here I'm going to measure out another 3.5 inch pieces. They were kind of hard to cut because they were so small, and I don't really use skill saws very often. I usually work with metal, so it's kind of a new thing for me. It was just a little project I wanted to do. But it's fairly easy to use. I mean, it's not like it's rocket science, but I did mess up, so I recut these. Again, those will be for the middle piece of the base. So you're going to stack all those on top of each other like I have right here. These aren't screwed together yet, so I'm just showing you how it'll look. Basically, the two little pieces in the middle and the 4 9-inch pieces on the ends. And just put the actual part that you stand on in the center of those 9-inch pieces, and then the 3.5-inch pieces will be exactly the length. And so here on the 9-inch pieces, you're going to mark on 4.5 because that is half of 9 inches. Then you just get an even number. I used 8, and then you go 1.5 3/4 on each side of that. So that'll be 3 inches, 3.5. And that's where the board will sit. So 1 3/4, 1 3/4 from the 4-inch mark. And then I'm just screwing these screws in. I don't really use impact wrenches very often, so it's kind of annoying, but it worked out. Try not to go too far because it actually will go all the way through and have like a little piece sticking out. I did get that on one of the boards, and I had to use a grinder to kind of buff it down with a tiger paw. That'll show in the next video, but just in case that happens to you. But if you don't go too far down, it won't go all the way through the two boards. But I used 2 screws on each side of this top. So this will be the top part of the board where you stand on. And I just put 2 right there on the top. I flipped it around and put the other 9-inch pieces on top of each other. Like I said, there was those little bumps, so I went ahead and got a grinder with a tiger paw, or a flap disc, I guess is what the proper name would be for it. But I just grinded those down just a little bit so I could have it flat against the other 9-inch board. And you just kind of grind it down a little bit. It's no big deal. So after I put those in, I put the 9-inch pieces on top. I didn't get a video of that because I was having a hard time with the impact wrench, unfortunately. But I put 4 screws on the bottom to hold that in. And as you can see, I am having a hard time again. It was quite frustrating, but here's the 3.5-inch pieces. I just put 2 diagonally. I used a drill to unscrew the screw, and then I put them back in, obviously, eventually. And I am also having a hard time right here, so hopefully you won't have as hard a time as I did, but I eventually did get it to work, so it's a good thing that the volume wasn't up on this because I was cussing quite often. My hair is a mess, and by this time I'm covered in sawdust and a little bit frustrated with this project. It did turn out really nice though, so I'm happy with it, but at this time I was not very happy. As you can tell, and by the face. So here's the second try, and I think I actually did get it on this one. Screwed it all the way in. The 3-inch pieces were not very symmetrical, so I just used the grinder and kind of fluffed them down a little bit. I mean, it really did work out fine. I kind of gave it a burnt look, which I really wasn't expecting. But, I mean, obviously it's wood, so why wouldn't I expect it, right? But did grind it down and smooth it out nicely, so that's fine. Flipped it around and ground that down. The 9-inch pieces actually turned out great, so I didn't have to do it to them. But I just wanted it to be perfect. Like I said before, the 3.5-inch was very, very annoying to cut because I'm not used to using the skill saw. So I just ground them down. It wasn't that big of a deal. Checking to see if it was level, and it was. So here is how it works. I actually took this video before I put the 3-inch pieces in the middle, but it's still the same thing. This is just generally how you use it. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but here is the finished product, and it works really great.